The challenge nobody dared to take. The bar was noisy, filled with laughter, smoke, and lies. Bounty hunters from across the galaxy sat at metal tables, bragging about kills and close calls. Above them, a giant screen played a news alert. The Xarnuk beast has claimed another crew. This marks the 15th hunting team lost on Velkarnine. Authorities now advise complete avoidance of the planet. No one looked up. They'd all heard it before. A human man sat quietly in the corner, sipping something warm and bitter. His name was Jace Walker. He wore an old jacket, one sleeve torn, and boots covered in dust from 100 worlds. His hands were calloused. Not the hands of a soldier anymore, just a mechanic. "You?" Someone laughed. A tall, green-skinned alien leaned over Jace's table, grinning with sharp teeth. "You're going after the Xarnuk." With bare hands. Others nearby turned and laughed too. Someone dropped their drink from shock. A woman with cybernetic eyes shook her head. "That thing ripped through a warship last month," she said. "You're not even carrying a weapon." Jace looked up calm. He didn't smile, didn't frown, just stared. "I don't need one." The room went silent for a moment. Then laughter exploded again. "This human's got a death wish," someone shouted. Jace stood. He grabbed his small backpack and walked toward the exit. As he passed the bar, the bartender called out, "What's your plan, Walker?" He paused, then turned slightly. "I'm going to find it," he said. "I'm going to catch it. And then, you'll understand why no one else could." Outside, 2 moons lit the sky of Elon Station. His ship was small, old, but fast. He climbed in, entered coordinates for Velkarnine, and sat back. The engine hummed to life. Before taking off, he pressed record on his personal log. Log entry, April 13, 3097. Mission: capture the Xarnuk beast. Status: solo, no weapons. Reason: classified. He didn't explain more. Not yet. Hours later, the ship landed on Velkarnine. The jungle was dark and thick, the air full of fog. Strange bird-like creatures called out in the distance. Trees were twisted, as if something massive had moved through them recently. Jace stepped out with only his backpack. Inside, a few tools, a recording drone, some medical gear, and a broken necklace. He walked slowly, watching, listening. This planet had already claimed some of the galaxy's best hunters. Their bones probably lay under the soil now. He wasn't here to join them. He was here because he had to be. As he moved deeper into the jungle, he found signs. Deep claw marks in a metal tree, a crushed helmet, tracks too large for any known creature. "Still close," he whispered. The recording drone hovered beside him, quietly filming. Suddenly, a low rumble echoed through the trees. Not thunder, not machines. Something alive, something angry. Jace didn't run. He crouched, placed a small motion sensor on the ground, and waited. The noise grew louder. Leaves shook. Something massive moved in the shadows. He checked the sensor. Movement detected. Close, very close. Then, silence. He stood up slowly, eyes scanning the trees. "You're watching me," he said. "I know you are." A few steps forward, and he found it, a clearing. In the center, something terrifying. The remains of a massive hunting drone, torn apart like paper. No fire, no blast marks, just claws and brute strength. And beside it, a giant footprint. Fresh. He knelt beside it, touching the edge. The beast had passed here less than an hour ago. He turned to the camera drone. "This is real. This thing, it's not just hunting. It's thinking." Then a sound. Soft. Breathing. Behind him. He froze, slowly turned his head. The trees didn't move, but something was there. Not attacking. Just waiting. Jace didn't speak, didn't move. He stood still, eyes focused, hands calm. "You remember me, don't you?" he said quietly. Silence again. Then, a low growl, almost like a whisper, and then it was gone. The jungle went quiet once more, but now he knew. It wasn't just a beast, it was something more, and it remembered him. Into the beast's den. The jungle didn't speak, it watched. As Jace Walker stood in the middle of the clearing, the silence was so deep it felt like sound had been erased. Even the drone beside him had stopped buzzing, its sensors confused by the invisible force in the air. Then, just like that, the tension broke. Birds screamed and flew into the sky. The jungle came back to life. But Jace knew better. The Xarnak was still nearby, hiding, waiting. He placed a small tracking disc on the shattered remains of the drone that had been torn apart. It would record data, pressure, heat, movement. Maybe give him something useful, maybe not. As he moved forward, deeper into the jungle, vines brushed against his jacket like fingers. The air was thick, sticky, heavy with moisture. Bugs buzzed near his ears, but didn't land on him, as if something stronger in the jungle had claimed him. The ground changed beneath his boots, less dirt, more bone. He stepped carefully. At the edge of a ridge, he stopped. Below him was a valley, dark and quiet, hidden under layers of mist. Giant roots twisted like arms reaching for the sky. And in the center, almost too perfect to be real, was a cave. Wide, black, ancient. He scanned it. "This has to be it," he whispered. His heart beat faster, but not with fear, with memory. 6 years ago, he had been here. Not this exact place, but this planet. During the last days of the border war. His unit had crashed here after a mission went wrong. Most of his team had died from wounds or the creatures that roamed the jungle. But one night, something massive had appeared in the dark. And it hadn't killed him. It had stared into his eyes and left. Everyone else said he was hallucinating, broken, lying. But Jace had remembered, and now, standing here, with that same pressure in his chest, he knew. It had been real. The Xarnak had spared him once. But why? He started the slow climb down into the valley. The ground was soft, covered in leaves and old bones. Animal bones, human bones, machine pieces twisted and rusted. He didn't flinch. He just walked carefully, recording everything with his drone. Near the entrance of the cave, he stopped again. Not out of fear, but instinct. There were marks in the dirt. Not claw marks. Not foot marks. Drag marks. Fresh. He knelt beside them. Something had been pulled into the cave. Something large. Possibly dead. But the strange part, there were no signs of a fight. He reached into his bag and pulled out a thermal scanner. He switched it on, pointed it into the cave. Nothing. The temperature dropped instantly. The scanner glitched. Readings disappeared. Then, behind him, a sound. Soft, wet, close. He turned slowly. Nothing. Just trees. But something had been there. He stood up, back straight, muscles tense. "You're testing me," he said into the air, just like before. No answer, only wind. He turned and walked into the cave. Darkness swallowed him whole. Even the light on his suit could barely push through the black. The walls felt alive, wet, pulsing with unseen movement. The smell inside was strong. Earth, blood, metal, something else. The drone followed closely, its light flickering. Interference grew worse with each step. He walked slowly, every footstep measured, quiet. Then he saw it. Not the beast. Not yet. Something stranger. A pile of items, carefully placed in the center of the cave. Tools, weapons, helmets, small datapads, all from the missing hunters. But they weren't scattered. They were arranged, like an offering. Or a warning. Jace stepped closer, scanning them. One datapad flickered weakly. He tapped it. The screen showed a video log. A man's face, bruised and bloody, appeared. This thing, it's not just killing us. It's watching, learning. It knows who's coming. It knows our tech. It's thinking ahead. The video ended in static. Jace turned off the pad and placed it down. He whispered, more to himself than the drone. It doesn't see us as predators. It sees us as invaders. Then, a sound. A slow, deep growl that didn't come from the cave walls. It came from the shadows behind him. He turned, heart pounding, eyes scanning. Nothing moved. But he knew. It was there. Not attacking. Not afraid. Just watching. He lowered his hand slowly to the side of his belt, not to draw a weapon, but to press a button. A light hum began. The scanner reset. The beast stepped forward. Not fully. Just enough. Two glowing eyes reflected back at him from the dark, the size of dinner plates. Intelligent. Focused. Jace didn't move. He let the moment stretch. Then he did something no other hunter had tried. He knelt. Head bowed. I didn't come here to hurt you, he said softly. I came here to understand. The Xarnox stood still. Then it did something impossible. It stepped back and disappeared into the dark. Jace stayed kneeling, breath shaking. He didn't win, but he wasn't dead. And that meant something. First contact. The jungle was loud again. Too loud. Jace Walker climbed out of the cave, moving slow, careful with every step. Behind him, the darkness swallowed the entrance like a mouth that had changed its mind. He didn't speak, not even to the drone. There was nothing to say yet. He had seen the Xarnox. Not just a shape, not just eyes. The face. Scars. Thick, deep, one of its horns cracked halfway. Fur black and silver. Muscles like stone. But the strangest part, the way it had looked at him. Not as prey. Not even as an enemy. Like it recognized him. Back at the edge of the valley, he stopped to rest. Sweat ran down his neck. The forest pressed in from all sides like it wanted him to leave. Every sound felt too close. Every tree looked like it could move. He whispered to the drone. Start new log. Log entry, April 14, 3097. Subject, direct contact with the Xarnox. Status, still alive. Reason unknown. He paused. It didn't attack. It watched. Then it left. Again. He looked up at the sky. Birds circled overhead, but none came down. The jungle knew something was changing. He checked the sensor readings from earlier. Heat spikes, magnetic interference, sound vibrations off the charts. One detail stood out. Something was following him. Not the beast, something smaller. He packed up and moved. If he was being tracked, he needed to find out who or what it was. After an hour of climbing, Jace reached a broken outpost. Rusted metal walls. Old flags, a human-made research station, long abandoned, probably from the early days of the war. He stepped inside carefully. Flashlight on. Dust floated in the air like snow. He swept the room. Data cores, dead. Cameras, offline. One chair tipped over. And then, a sound. Soft, whisper-like, not human. He turned fast, but nothing moved. You've been here before, he said quietly. His voice echoed off the metal walls. He didn't mean himself. He meant the Xarnox. On the far wall, scratch marks. But not random. Lines, shapes, symbols. No way, he whispered. He ran a hand over the symbols. They looked like a code, almost a language. And suddenly, a memory slammed into his mind. A battle. Fire. Screams. And a brief moment. Him standing in a field, a young Xarnox cornered, wounded, afraid. He had lowered his weapon, let it go. And now, this? The beast had spared him twice. Once in war, once in the cave. "What are you?" he whispered. Suddenly, the drone beeped. Loud. Movement. Outside the station. He shut off the light and crouched near the door. Footsteps, but not heavy like the Zarnak. Light. Fast. Human? No, not human. He watched as two small shapes crept past the window. Creatures, like small versions of the Zarnak. Cubs. Curious, sniffing the ground where he had walked. His breath caught. This was bigger than any hunt. This was a family. He moved slightly, just enough for one of the cubs to notice. It froze. Its eyes met his. Tiny, glowing, full of fear. He stayed still. It didn't run. The second cub joined the first. Both watched him. A soft sound came from their throats. Half growl, half purr. Then something behind them shifted. Fast. Silent. The Zarnak. The mother. She stood tall, hidden behind vines, almost invisible. Jace knew. One wrong move, and he was dead. He lowered his head slowly, not as weakness, but as respect. A long silence passed. Then, the cubs walked away, and the mother followed. No sound, no anger, just understanding. Jace exhaled, shaking. He wasn't hunting them anymore. They were letting him see. The drone floated beside him. Lights dimmed. "Safe footage," he whispered. "This isn't a beast. This is a civilization in hiding." As he stepped out of the station, the forest seemed less hostile. But only for a moment. Because as he reached a hill, a sharp sound cracked through the air. Gunfire. Not far. A ship flew overhead, low and loud, with a mercenary logo painted on its wings. They were here. Not to study. Not to understand. To kill. And Jace knew what that meant. The Zarnak wasn't in danger because of him. She was in danger because others had followed him. The truth about the beast. The forest burned in the distance. Smoke curled into the orange sky like wounded ghosts. Something had landed, hard. Jace Walker stood on a cliff's edge, watching. His jaw clenched, eyes narrowed. The wind carried the sound of screaming engines and gunfire. They'd come. Not scientists, not peacekeepers. Mercenaries. They must have followed his signal. Or maybe they had been on their way already, hunting the bounty like all the others. The Zarnak beast was worth millions to the right buyer, dead or alive. Mostly dead. His hand hovered near his wrist device. It was old, cracked, but still working. A flashing red dot moved across the map on the screen. Not him. Her. The Zarnak. The mother. She was moving fast. Not toward safety. Toward the danger. "Damn it," he muttered. He didn't have time to think. He ran. Branches whipped his face as he sprinted downhill. Vines grabbed his legs. Thorns tore through his jacket. He didn't care. He knew the terrain now. He knew the shortcuts. And more importantly, he knew her. She wasn't running to fight them. She was running to protect something. His boots slammed through a shallow stream, water splashing high. The sound of metal feet followed. He wasn't alone anymore. He reached for the small pulse sensor on his belt, tossed it behind him. 1 second delay. Boom. The jungle lit up for half a heartbeat, enough to blind anything following. When the light faded, Jace was gone. Deeper now. Closer. Ahead. He saw it. A clearing filled with smoke. A mercenary gunship had crash-landed, tearing trees apart. Fires burned in small patches. A half circle of soldiers stood with plasma rifles, aiming outward. And in the center, a cub. Alone. Backed into a rock wall. Growling. Terrified. "No, no, no," Jace whispered. He pulled out his drone controller and sent it high, to scan from above. There was no sign of the mother, which could only mean one thing. She was already here. He crouched low in the brush. His breathing slowed. The soldiers were talking on comms, but he couldn't hear words, just panic. Then came the silence, a thick, unnatural quiet. One of the soldiers turned, stopped moving. Blood spread from his chest like spilled ink. Claws. Fast. Silent. Another scream. Another body dropped. And then chaos. Gunfire lit the forest like lightning. They never saw her coming. The Xarnak was not a wild animal. She was a storm, moving through trees, over rocks, across fire like she belonged to it. She didn't roar, didn't rage. She simply hunted. But Jace wasn't watching her. He was watching the cub. Still trapped, still shaking. He moved, crawling low, quiet as he could. Bullets flew over him. Branches exploded. Bark shattered. He got closer. 10 feet. 5. The cub saw him. Snarled. He stopped. "I'm not here to hurt you," he whispered. The cub didn't understand his words, but it stared, like it was searching his face, just like its mother had. He reached into his pack slowly, pulled out a glowing cube, food capsule, the kind researchers used for creature training. He placed it on the ground and stepped back. The cub sniffed, took it, ate. Then, a shadow passed over them both. Jace didn't need to turn. She was here, behind him. He raised his hands, slow. "I saved it," he said. "Look, I didn't touch it. I didn't hurt it." Silence. Then the beast moved past him, brushing his shoulder with a force like a truck. But she didn't strike. She went to her cub, checked it, nuzzled it, and turned back to Ace. Those massive eyes met his again. And then something happened, something Jace didn't expect. A sound. Not a growl, not a roar. A voice. Not words, not speech, but tone. Deep, vibrating in his bones. Like language, like she was trying to speak. Jace fell to his knees. He didn't understand, but he knew. This creature had intelligence, memory, language, emotion. Everything humans claimed it didn't. "You're not a beast," he whispered. "You're a mother, a guardian." And suddenly, it all clicked. The attacks, the kills, the destroyed ships. She wasn't hunting for fun. She was defending her territory, her young. All these years, all those hunters, they were the monsters, and she had simply survived. He looked up, but she was already gone, vanished with her cub into the smoke. Only the dead remained behind. His drone returned, scanning the field. Among the dead soldiers was a familiar logo, the same mercenary group from the war. "So it's you again," Jace muttered. "You never stopped hunting her." His eyes hardened. This wasn't a job anymore. This was a warning. They weren't going to stop, and neither was he. Hunter becomes the hunted night had fallen over Velkarnine, but the jungle didn't rest. It whispered. Shadows moved without sound. Trees bent under invisible pressure. Above, in the starless sky, lights blinked. Ships. More of them. Small, fast, heavily armed. Mercenary scouts. They were spreading like poison. Jace Walker sat alone near the edge of a cliff, staring into the dark. Below him, fires flickered from a destroyed camp. The bodies were already gone, dragged away by predators or claimed by the jungle. But the memory of the fight remained in the smoke. He tapped his wrist device. The signal flared again. Interference, high frequency, encrypted, not natural. Someone was jamming communications. "They're not just here for the beast," he muttered. "They're trying to hide something." He stared at the mercenary badge he pulled from a dead soldier. It was old, scratched, and familiar. He'd seen that symbol once before, years ago. The day his unit was ambushed. The day they left him behind. That mission had never made the news. The records were sealed. But he remembered everything. And now, the same people were here. Not just hunting the Xarnak. They were trying to erase a mistake. Him. The wind shifted. His drone pinged. Movement. fast, coming from behind. He rolled aside just in time as a pulse shot slammed into the rock where he had been sitting. 3 figures emerged from the trees. Black armor, red visors, silent. They weren't scouts. They were assassins. They'd come for him. Jace ran. Down the hill, across broken ground, through roots and thorns. Pulse shots cracked trees open behind him. He dove under fallen branches, slid through mud, zigzagging to avoid becoming a target. He knew this terrain better than they did. But they were faster. One dropped from the trees in front of him. Jace didn't slow. He tackled the figure off the ledge, and both tumbled into a ravine. They hit hard. Jace rolled, coughing, ribs screaming in pain. The assassin got up first, blade drawn. No time to think. Jace grabbed a rock and threw it into the dark behind the man. A distraction. Half a second. It was enough. He charged, slammed into the man's chest, and drove him into a tree. Armor cracked. A hiss escaped the helmet. Human. Who sent you? Jace growled. No answer. Just a smile. Then a click. The assassin's suit exploded in a flash of white light. Self-destruct. Jace was thrown back, ears ringing. He lay on the ground, dazed, skin burned, breathing hard. They weren't trying to capture him. They were trying to erase him. Because he knew too much, and because she had spared him. The Xarnak wasn't just a rare beast. She was something they'd failed to control. And now, with him still alive, witness, survivor, they were exposed. He coughed, blood in his mouth. So now I'm the prey, he said, laughing bitterly. Somewhere nearby, something moved. Not fast, not aggressive. Slow, deliberate. He raised his head, and there she was, the Xarnak, standing at the edge of the ravine, cub behind her, watching. They had heard the fight, maybe even followed him. Jace didn't speak. He didn't have to. She came closer, not threatening, not angry, curious. He reached into his bag, slowly, and pulled out a data cord he'd taken from the Merc camp. He placed it on the ground. This is what they want, he whispered. Not you. Not me. This. She stared at it, then at him. Her eyes flickered with something beyond animal thought. She understood. And suddenly, the hunter's role shattered. Jace Walker was no longer in control. He was just another piece in something much larger. And she was the guardian of something ancient, something powerful. He stood slowly. And for the first time, he saw it. Not a monster, not a target, a keeper of a secret the galaxy had buried, and now wanted dead. His comm crackled suddenly. Someone breaking through the jamming field. A voice. Female. Cold. Jace Walker, this is command. Stand down and surrender. Your mission is over. You've seen too much. His lips curled into a smirk. You're wrong, he whispered. It's just beginning. He looked at the Xarnak. We're not running anymore. She didn't move, didn't speak, but she stood beside him. And that was all the answer he needed. The final battle. The sky was burning. Red streaks tore across the dark as 3 mercenary gunships broke the clouds above Velkarnine. Their engines screamed like war drums, shaking the trees, scattering birds, and sending every creature in the jungle running for cover. But Jace Walker didn't run. He stood on a high ridge overlooking the valley, the Xarnak mother beside him, her cub hiding just behind her massive frame. They were both silent, staring up at the ships like they knew exactly what was coming. They're early, Jace muttered. The wrist device on his arm blinked. Inbound forces, 3 minutes, armed with plasma, cryo rounds, and seismic charges. They weren't just coming to capture anymore. They were coming to erase. The Xarnak mother gave a low rumble. Not anger. Warning. She had seen this before. So had Jace. He pulled a small recorder from his bag and turned it on. Log entry, April 15, 3097. This is no longer a hunt. This is a war, and we're not going to hide anymore. He looked to the creature beside him. You ready? She didn't answer. She just moved. Down the slope. Quiet, smooth, powerful. Jace followed. They reached the old research station before the ships landed. The structure was broken, overgrown, forgotten. But inside, Jace had prepared traps. Nothing high-tech, nothing loud. Smart traps, sonic lures, energy mines, scent blockers. Things he had built back during the war. Things that made people disappear without leaving a trace. He activated the last switch. Now, they waited. The first ship landed in the clearing with a hiss of steam. Mercenaries in black armor stormed out, rifles ready. Scanners buzzed. Lights swept the jungle. They weren't here to negotiate. Area's hot. One of them said into comms, "Walker's signal is confirmed. Move in formation." The team split into 3 groups. Jace watched from a distance, crouched inside the station. He could see them through cracked walls. Moving fast. Too fast. Then, boom. One stepped into a false clearing. An energy mine sent shockwaves through the trees. The man vanished in a flash of white. Panic. Gunfire. The rest took cover. That was the moment. She attacked. The Xarnok mother leaped from the treetops. Yes, the treetops, landing in the middle of the group like thunder. Bodies flew. Screams echoed. Rifles fired wildly. She didn't give them a chance. She didn't kill for sport. She killed to end the threat. Jace joined the fight from the side. Not with guns, but with speed, with tools, with fury. He slammed an EMP charge into the side of a walker mech. The machine sparked and fell sideways, crushing its pilot. A mercenary aimed at him from behind. Too slow. The cub, small, fast, almost a blur, charged from the bushes and knocked the man down, clawing across his visor. They were fighting as one. Man, beast, family. Inside the ship, high above, the mission commander watched the chaos below. A cold woman with silver eyes and no emotion. Walkers bonded with it, she said. Terminate both. She pressed a button. From the ship's belly, a new weapon dropped. A Titan drone. 2 stories tall. Fully armed. It crashed into the jungle and began scanning. Target, Xarnok. Threat level, Alpha. Objective, elimination. Jace saw it land and cursed. We don't win this with strength, he muttered. We win it with truth. He ran back to the ridge, dragging a long wire behind him. His final trap. A signal booster, stolen from the old research post, wired into his drone, hacked into the mercenary comms. He turned on the live feed. Video of the cubs, of the symbols in the cave, of the beast showing mercy. And then, the Merc commander's own voice from a recovered data core. Kill them all. We can't let this leak. If they learn what these things are capable of, everything falls apart. Jace broadcasted. To the whole system. Open frequency. Planet-wide. Galaxy accessible. There was no taking it back. Now the galaxy knows, he whispered. They're not monsters. You are. The Titan drone locked onto the Xarnok. She growled and stood her ground. But then, missiles fired. Too fast. Too close. Jace ran. No. Impact. Smoke, fire, dirt exploding into the air. He was thrown back. Everything went dark. He woke to silence. And then, a breath. Soft, tired, but alive. He turned. The Xarnok stood. Burned. Wounded, but still standing. The cub at her side. Behind them, the drone. Half melted, but still recording. Jace sat up, coughing. The mercenaries were gone. The commander's ship, gone. Everyone had heard the truth. They couldn't hide anymore. He looked at her. She looked at him. They didn't smile. But they didn't need to. In the end, neither had hunted the other. They had fought side by side. And they had won. For now, legends aren't always lies. The jungle was quiet. Too quiet. Velkarnine, the planet of beasts and storms, now lay under a calm gray sky. Fires had burned out. The ships had fled. The smoke had cleared. But the story wasn't over. Not yet. In a small outpost near the planet's equator, a group of researchers gathered around a glowing screen. One of them hit pause. On the screen, frozen in light, was a frame of a man and a monster, standing side by side. Not fighting, not killing, standing. The voiceover, Jace Walker's voice, played softly in the background. This isn't a beast. This isn't some monster from a scary story. This is a mother, a guardian, and we were the ones who walked into her home with guns. Silence followed. Then someone whispered, "It's real." 2 systems away, inside a crowded space station bar, bounty hunters huddled around another screen. The same footage. The same truth. A big 6-armed alien laughed bitterly and slammed his glass down. He caught the beast with bare hands. No, he walked out alive because she let him. Someone else shook their head. So what happens now? No one answered. Because no one knew. Back on Velkarnine, the forest was still healing. Trees regrew where fire had torn through. Animals returned slowly. And high above the valley, near the edge of a cliff, Jace Walker sat on a rock, watching the sunrise. He was quiet. His jacket was torn, boots covered in mud, bandages wrapped around his side. He looked tired, but alive. A soft rumble came from behind him. The Xarnok mother stood among the trees, cub resting beside her. She wasn't hiding anymore. She watched him like she had from the start. Not with fear, not with hate. With understanding. He turned to face her. "They saw it all," he said. "The video. The truth. It's out now." She didn't move. But she seemed to listen. "Some will believe it," he continued. "Some won't. Maybe they'll send more ships. Maybe they'll leave you alone. I don't know." A long pause. The cub yawned. "But I know one thing," Jace said, voice low. "You're not a legend anymore. You're real. And you're not alone." The wind moved through the trees. She stepped forward. Slow, powerful, quiet. Stopped just a few feet from him. Jace didn't move. She lowered her head, just slightly, then turned, and vanished into the jungle. Weeks passed. In the far corners of the galaxy, news spread. The bounty was removed. The Xarnok threat label was erased from every government terminal. Some still whispered about the beast, like it was a myth. But now, they'd whispered with respect. On some worlds, people called it the protector of Velkar. On others, the mother of silence. And in back alley bars and black market stations, hunters told stories of a man who walked into the forest unarmed and came back with no scars, just truth. On Elon Station, under neon lights and metal ceilings, an alien reporter held a mic outside a crowded hall. "The Walker files," she said, facing the camera, "have gone viral across 17 systems. People are calling him the first man to make contact with the Xarnok species. But Jace Walker hasn't made a single public appearance since. No interviews, no calls. Just one message left behind." She raised a datapad. The screen showed a simple text. "I wasn't the first to meet her, but maybe I'll be the last to fear her." Far away, deep in the jungle again, the drone, Jace's old companion, floated quietly through the mist. It hovered above a cave, scanning, watching. And down below, just for a moment, 2 eyes flashed in the darkness. Not angry, not wild, just aware. Some say Jace died out there. Others say he became part of the forest. A few believe he still walks with the Xarnok, learning, protecting. But the truth became a story. And like all good stories, it grew. Until one day, in a bar at the edge of the galaxy, a young explorer slammed his drink down and said, "You what? You caught the galaxy's most dangerous beast with bare hands." And a voice behind him chuckled. Soft, familiar. "Not caught," the man said. "Just understood." The end.